I love that what you said, especially about faith and prayer as you're going along the way. Let's go a little bit back in some of the things that you've done to prepare yourself for this run. You work
Okay.
closely with CPS. Let's talk about that.
Actually, I work for the Texas Department of Family Protective Services
Yes,
Office of General Counsel.
yes.
That is separate from Child Protective Services, but we provide legal support to the Adult Protective Services and Child Protective Services client groups in counties where the district attorneys and county attorneys basically elect not to provide that support, or if there's a conflict of interest. In addition, we're there for just the overall general liability issues that may come in. If we have caseworkers that maybe get into a car accident, if there is an issue regarding memorandums of understanding between different agencies, of course, that is something that that I'm involved with as well. The Office of General Counsel maybe has about 150 attorneys statewide, and you compare that to the bandwidth of over 12,000 employees for the department. So that kind of lets you know that we're a smaller sector, and the vast majority of the CPS representation is being handled by county attorneys and district attorneys across the state.
I love that. Why did you decide to run for Fort Bend attorney at this time?
Okay, so every day I'm working with county attorneys and district attorneys, whether it's, for instance, with district attorneys, helping them in terms of whether they need records for criminal prosecution, and then also corresponding with them on public integrity issues. And for the county attorneys, if they're representing the Child Protective Services Division, of course, I don't know of every case that they handle, but there's some cases, if they don't understand particular elements and issues, they
Yes,
will ask for regional legal to step in to provide specialized litigation support.
yes.
So dealing with county attorneys and district attorneys daily, and then also having the overall representation factor of a governmental agency, I knew what it took to be a county attorney based on my years of experience doing so, and also my years of experience managing litigation attorneys who work for the government. So the county attorney is an attorney that represents the county government. It's not an attorney's office that's representing individuals per se. So my skill set in terms of having the experience of representing a governmental agency, and also specifically the county attorney's role in representing state agencies such as CPS and APS, made me a perfect fit, in my opinion, to be able to elect to run for this position. So I thought about it. After several months, of course, I had to get permission to run, so it wasn't like something I could just jump up and do
Right.
immediately once I started contemplating. But it's something that I don't regret doing, because I know that going into this role, there are a lot of fine details and issues and nuances
Right.
are in government law that I'm already privy to, already aware of, already have experience with. So that's why I ran for this position, and why I believe that I am equipped and able to serve in this position.
Absolutely. What do you think at this point of the Fort Bend County Attorney position? What do you think the office in itself needs? What issues do you see that are there?
One of the biggest issues that I see with the changing of the guard, meaning with Mr. Cordes retiring, is
Right.
that office has been under the same leadership for several years. Whenever there's a change of the corporate head,
Yes.
there's a change in corporate culture. So one of the biggest thing I think is going to be making sure that all of the county attorneys in that umbrella, or under that office, know that I am equipped and able to lead them, number one, and that I want to partner with them. When I say that, the county attorney is not doing this work by themselves. There is a whole division of lawyers and support staff that's there,
Yes.
and no one person can do that work by themselves. But you have to have a leader in place that is capable, able, knowledgeable, and one that other lawyers can trust and know that they can follow. So one of the biggest things I think is going to be making sure that that office knows that their leadership has changed, and that they are in good hands, and that they will be able to be basically led by someone who knows the job and who will respect them as other professionals, and also be able to navigate and know all of the other county agencies under the county umbrella, and that those individuals know that they can rely upon their attorneys to give sound legal guidance and a sound legal product.
Absolutely, I love that. Let's expound a little bit on what are the job duties of the Fort Bend County Attorney. You did, speak of several, but we want people to be specific in what is the job description of that position that you're running for.
Sure. The Texas Government Code basically establishes every county attorney position in the state of Texas, and it goes county by county.
Yes.
If you look at the code provision regarding Fort Bend, the nature of the job is to represent the county commissioners at Commissioners Court, to represent the county governmental agencies, whether that's road and bridges,
yes,
whether that's the drainage district, the sheriff's
yes,
department, the constables. You are the one-stop attorney for all things county government. So, say for instance, there is an issue, we'll bring up civil rights, because we know that that's been going to matter. The county attorney is going to be one to necessarily file for a lawsuit for civil rights. It is more than likely going to be the division that's going to handle a civil rights complaint or a civil rights lawsuit in defense of the county. So if you have an employee that works maybe at the drainage district and they say, well, I've been discriminated against and I'm filing a lawsuit, file that lawsuit against the county attorney's office is the defense attorney for them. Now, my perspective is, if we've done something wrong, we should not put families through unnecessary litigation. As an African American, I can identify with racism and discrimination without even having to go through my own personal stories.
Right.
Most of us can So the county attorney is going to be representing the county in defense, but more importantly, in doing right by that county employee, which in turn is doing right by the public, because we don't want our county to be operating in a manner that harms the employees or creates a toxic work environment or a toxic culture, because these are public servants and we have to respect that they are there working for us. So the county attorney is there to defend when it's rightfully the opportunity to present a viable defense, but also to call our counterparts out if they're doing something wrong. So if that employee who was discriminated against was harmed and that was an illegal action that was taken against them, then we would try to make sure that we can mitigate, resolve, or even settle the case, because I don't believe in having unnecessary litigation just because you want to fight. Sometimes you have to know when to resolve and when to acknowledge that something has been done wrong. So that's an example of an issue that may come up where the county attorney is being activated to represent the county.
I love that. I love the fact that you're explaining that, because each person needs to understand when they're at the voting booth, or if they're, mailing it in, who are they voting for and what are they voting for? I like to always make sure we explain that. We also want to go a little bit about what is the separation of power of the attorney and the client in a government. What does that really mean, separation?
Well, I have to talk about the attorney-client relationship in general.
Right.
Okay? Because
absolutely.
The rules of professional responsibility basically lay out what a lawyer is supposed to do for their client. They're supposed to represent their client zealously. So that means if you are representing someone who's up for a murder trial, you must represent them in all zeal and all fervor to the best of your ability to reach that that defense that person is asking you to advocate for them. So if they're saying they're not guilty, you fight for them to prove that they're not guilty. So in the context of government, you represent the governmental agency. So when the governmental agency comes and they have a certain outcome or a certain goal that they want to achieve, you try your best to achieve that. However, it's different with the governmental agency per se, because it's not just an individual. So you're
Right.
constantly battling or balancing rather, the goal of the governmental agency also with public interest. So those are the slight little nuances that makes representing a governmental agency different from representing businesses, different from representing individuals. So you do owe your client that same duty of zealous representation and that same duty of confidentiality, and
Yes.
also conflicts of interest. An attorney is not supposed to have a client that they have a conflict of interest with, or create a conflict of
Right.
interest. And that's spelled out clearly in our rules of professional responsibility. So, and that's something that you always have to balance when you're representing a governmental agency and or individuals or corporations. So that's kind of like a little breakdown in a nutshell of the balance of power between an attorney and client, and also the distinction when you're representing a governmental agency.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that. You're running as a Democrat. How would you work as an elected official? How would you work with the Republican Party across the aisles? Because you're running as a Democrat, and there's Republicans that are there, part of the governmental agency. What would you do to, engage them?
Okay, well, that's a great question. As a public servant, I work for an agency that's under the Republican leadership of Governor Greg Abbott. They have a lot of control and say so on how this agency operates.
Yes.
But I can tell you that public interest in the protection of our communities is a goal that I would stress is common to everyone, regardless of party line. So if elected, I want them to know that my main goal, I have my democratic values that I do not plan to abandon, but my main goal is to make sure that we keep the public safe and that we do what's right for everyone in our communities. Prime example, if we have a flood, that doesn't stop in a Republican neighborhood, Democrat neighborhood, or this side of Fort Bend side. It's something that's common to us all. So we all must be able to reach across the aisle and work together. But I do know that some people try to put up those barriers and make it an impediment to reaching sound and safe decisions for our community. And I would not do that. As long as we're fighting for the common goal of keeping the community safe and making policies for Fort Bend County that make common sense, that benefit people at their front door, then I would be on board. And I would want anyone, Republican, Democrat, or independent or otherwise, to know that that is my position. So partisan politics, it does have its place. We have to run on Democratic platforms and Republican platforms to get out of our individual primary races. But once I'm elected, I will be a servant to every and all communities of Fort Bend.
That's great. The George Floyd issue has hit the world.
Yes.
A huge impact. How did it affect you and your family?
Well, I can tell you this. George Floyd was a schoolmate and a football teammate of my husband.
Right.
And so it was not someone that my husband or his brothers or his family just discovered when we were all watching him with the knee in his neck.
Right.
This was someone that they knew from years ago, that they, matriculated through school with, and even after high school kept in contact with them. So it was it hit us a lot more than others.
Right.
When we were protesting, we were not protesting just because of, of course, obviously in support of Black Lives Matter, but it was an emotional piece because this is someone that we that was a personal connection with, and that created an even bigger emotional pull. I can tell you that my husband cried very hard during that time, and it's something that's sensitive to us. And I can tell you Black Lives Matter to us before the Black Lives Matter movement.
Right.
So we are for police reform and just ridding this country of discrimination and institutional racism, because it's time out. It's time out for this. We should not have to be facing these same issues in 2020 that have shackled us to our past. So,
Absolutely. When we come back, we will talk to Bridgette Smith-Lawson about her run.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. For a limited time, get $16,000 off all in-stock Cadillac 2019 XT5 crossovers and $19,000 off all in-stock 2019 CT6 sedans. Or experience the first ever 2020 Cadillac XT6 Premium Luxury Collection, only $519 with $1 down for 39 months lease. Or purchase and receive 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
When it comes to protecting yourself and your partners, all the information out there can be overwhelming. Visit our website. We are a free and confidential service striving to help you stay informed and stay notified. We are committed to a healthy Houston.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. Drive the new 2020 Cadillac XT4, only $399 a month, or the new 2020 XT5, only $429 a month, both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase the XT4 or XT5 and enjoy 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
Our story begins more than 60 years ago inside an abandoned chicken coop where our founder discovered a retired teacher living. No home, no health care. So she said no to this injustice and yes to transforming lives. It's this drive, this compassion that inspired AARP. Today we empower people to choose how they live as they age. We advocate for health and financial security. We strengthen communities everywhere. We are AARP, creating real possibilities.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hey family, welcome back. I've got Bridgette Smith-Lawson. She is running for Fort Bend County Attorney. Hey Bridgette, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Cam?
Doing great, doing great. We were just talking about the George Floyd issue and what happened with him, and then of course how close he was to your husband and their family. And we were just speaking of that, and I'm sorry about that too. The other thing that has come upon us is COVID, and that's a really growing issue in Texas. What have you seen, because you've been out on the campaign trail and also giving out different things from masks to food to everything? Talk to the viewers about what you've seen on your trail.
Well, I can tell you that people have needs that need
Yes.
to be met during this time, because COVID-19 has caused financial impacts
Yes.
for our community, because a lot of folk aren't able to work. There are health impacts, obviously, because of COVID-19.
You this way?
We all need to be vigilant. We all need to make sure that we wear our masks, we wear our gloves, we use sanitizer, we wash our hands, and do our part to stop the spread. In working in the community at various food drives over the past several weeks, I know that people are happy and so grateful for anything that
Yes.
people are to give them, whether it's a loaf of bread, whether it's a gallon of milk. It's been a blessing to serve. I've worked on so many food distribution lines, and it's been really a great experience in serving. Of course, we don't want to have to engage and congregate under these conditions, but the true spirit of servitude has been shown for the past several weeks with so many of us in different areas of Fort Bend County and across this whole state, actually, of serving our communities and helping our fellow brothers and sisters. So I wish that COVID-19 had not occurred. I'm sure so many of us wish we weren't in this pandemic, but we have to do our very best to work together to get out of it by using all measures to restrict the spread and then helping each other as much as we can to meet the immediate needs of people during this time period.
I'm glad you said that because it's 40 million plus people that have filed for unemployment at this time. And as you've seen people from all walks of life to come to each distribution event that you've had, I'm sure that you've seen that there are much more that needs to be done.
Definitely, definitely. I believe that we have not seen the worst of the financial
Right.
fallout because of this. That is yet to behold itself. But I do know that in the meantime, doing all that we can to assist our brothers and sisters is the best thing that we can do. Sharing the burden, sharing the load as much as we can, and even the emotional load of knowing that maybe you have COVID or just being in the home, isolated from individuals and not being able to maybe just basically hug your grandmother. Those are things that I know personally I'm experiencing of not being able to hug my grandmother. Having just those opportunities to emotionally bond in other ways, whether it's calls, texts, or family Zoom calls, those things are what we can do in the meantime to help support each other emotionally as we continue to fight COVID on so many different fronts. There is much that can be learned from this process in terms of government readiness and preparedness, in terms of making sure that you give the community sound information that's backed by sound data, and supporting our medical professionals and not ignoring information for political expedience.
Yes.
So I think that's also what we need to look at when we're voting for people into office. I know for myself, as someone who's gone through FEMA training, who has led a group of regulatory litigation attorneys through several hurricanes and having to adjust with dealing with managing the workload and managing them being evacuated. You want to make sure that you have people who know how to operate in emergency management. You don't get a test run, you don't get a drill with some things.
Right.
You have to be able to be equipped and ready to lead at the helm at the drop of a dime without thinking about it, without panicking, without going through several layers of emotional bouts and fits. You have to have sound leadership. So that's what I know this pandemic has shown us, is that at this time, we need to make sure that our leaders are solid, that they're equipped and ready to serve us in times of crisis and then also in the good times. So,
absolutely. When you win, what would the first thing be that you do?
The first thing I would do, obviously, is to meet all of the attorneys and legal support staff in that office in a collective manner, and then also individually to meet with them to discuss their workloads, to discuss even what they would like the office to look like. Now, ultimately, as the managing attorney, the buck stops with you, but you want to make sure that you get the input of your team so that they can trust you and so that they can feel like they have buy-in to what you plan to roll out as a platform and goals to that office. In addition, I would want to meet with every department head and as many people in their department ranks to assure them of our presence, our leadership, and also our willingness to serve them as attorneys. Review all of the county policies and know in and out all of the different operations of every division that we're supporting. So, of course, I want to make sure that I roll out my platform and put in my timelines for completion, and then also have those check-ins to make sure that we are meeting the goals at the right pace and at the right time. But the most important element is making sure that the relationships are intact and that the attorneys that I will be supervising are intact and in line with the platform that we want to roll out. If you have people that are in the office that maybe are not willing to move a different direction or want to challenge anything, listen to them and get their side of the story.
Right.
Because in these roles, you can't be you have to incorporate the opinions and the thoughts and also the input of your team. But again, knowing when you have to make the final decision. So it would be building those relationships. I don't want to have a dictatorship in that office, but I will provide sound leadership.
Yes, that's great. The issues, you spoke about issues that are within the office at this point. What changes would you do as you are elected? What would you do?
One of the main things I want to do is a modernization of the office in terms of not just computers and internet modems, but how we capture county inquiries,
Yes.
how we capture any type of information or requests for official opinions, and also tracking the same. An example of an idea of what I have is to create a centralized electronic depository of all requests on a standardized form, and
Yes.
then also making sure that we have a strict way of basically assigning that work out, and also check-ins in time periods for them to respond and have their opinions back to the county offices that they're supporting. That's not to substitute picking up the phone and calling the county attorney with just a question, but that is to provide a verifiable way to track the request and to document the advice that was given. So modernization is one of the first things that I want to do to make sure that the office is equipped and able to meet the demands of 2020 and beyond. I know our county has, I believe, 760,000 people right now,
Yes.
and it's approaching 1 million here soon.
Yes.
We have to make that the legal boutique that supports county government, i.e. the county attorney's office, is equipped to handle the demands of the growing constituency in Fort Bend. That also means that we have to look beyond ourselves and look at other models across the state. Some of the biggest county offices in the state that I know of is Harris County Attorney's Office, which I deal with regularly. And also we have the Dallas County model and the Travis County model. Looking at those, not that you do the same thing, but that you get an idea, because sometimes you need to look beyond yourself to see what you need to improve
Yes.
upon. So modernization and ensure that we are providing the legal bandwidth that the county demands is going to be one of the first things I want to implement. Good advice is great, and making sure that you have your great lawyer is just, that's the key. But if you cannot provide the vehicle to get the question submitted to
Yes.
you and the information back out, then you're not doing a service as efficiently and effectively as you can.
I understand that. Transparency and accountability in the office. You've mentioned that and spoken about that extensively before. Let's discuss that. The transparency and accountability.
All right. So with transparency and accountability, one of the things with the modernization piece is, again, tracking the legal requests or guidance that's being asked of the county attorney's office. But you also have that being called attorney-client privilege.
Yes.
So although we would be able to provide the guidance and advice that the county needs, you also have to balance that with attorney-client privilege.
Yes.
So this goes back to what I was explaining. The county attorney's role and duty is to the county
Right.
government. So if someone just comes off the street and they demand to know certain information, that would have to be vetted and reviewed for balancing of attorney-client privilege. You want to make sure that the guidance that you give basically meets the need of the governmental agency, but behind every governmental agency is a community, is a family, and you want to make sure that those needs are also being balanced.
Right.
So transparency, yes, we want to be able to be transparent. We want to be able to hold people accountable. I know that the Public Integrity Office is there, and in part we want to know that when people are not doing their job, and maybe it's violating the law, violating any policies
Yes.
and procedures, that you hold those county employees and officials responsible for that. that was one of the things that I talked about earlier. When you want to have the office set up to maybe defend issues of civil rights.
Right.
If that employee has violated another employee, we want to make sure that we address that employee that did wrong and not just defend the county just, at all costs.
Absolutely.
If something is wrong, we need to address it. In my experience with representing one of the hardest agencies in the state, we don't always have the ultimate say-so on what our client does because they are separate from us. They make decisions sometimes without us.
Yes.
We give our legal guidance. We give our opinions. And just as in any other attorney-client relationship, your client can reject that advice. If you're in a divorce and your attorney advises you to do something, you decide otherwise, that client has the right to object or to reject that advice. But you owe your client the duty of zealous representation and also giving them all of the consequences of what their choices can be or may be.
That is great, great, great. I love it. You had mentioned something. You had mentioned about grandmother. Let's talk about your grandmother and how she has affected you along the way.
Yes, my grandmother is an awesome lady. She is 96 years old.
Yes.
She's still with us, kicking and strong. But my grandmother raised us with a 6th grade education. So by the time I got to 7th grade, I already had more education than her. But one thing she did, she instilled in us hard work. She instilled in us the spirit of perseverance, no matter what. And she made sure that we understood that education was a key to get us out of our economic situation. When I say economic situation, we was poor. So I don't want to fix it up in any kind of way. So she made sure. I remember her reading her Bible for the scripture, yes, for the word of God, but also for even like math problems she would come up with. And this is someone, she was born in 1924. So she
Oh
saw
my
the
God, yes.
I remember when President Obama was elected, she was so happy. And I remember it on her piano at the house, she had a picture of President Obama with the family right there next to us. So that's just, she valued and saw that moment as precious. But one thing she has taught me, and one thing I do know, even with the 6th grade education, she was still one of the smartest persons that I've ever met. And know this, you don't have to have a lot of paper on the wall,
right?
A lot of trees, and all of the bells and whistles to be an intelligent person, emotionally, yes, socially, or otherwise. So she has taught us that by way of just her living. So I respect her for it. And, I can't also talk about my grandmother without talking about my mother. My mother struggled as a single mom.
Yes.
And she never did finish college. She just has a high school diploma. But I have a sister that's finishing law school. I have a brother who's on an MBA, and my other sister who has a master's. So something about that hard work and that push and that perseverance, those things, once it's instilled in you as a child, will take you a long way. So I can't look at any successes in my life without thinking about my family and what they did and poured out in me so that we all could get where we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is so good to know. And her being a single mom, and now you're an attorney. How I know she's just a proud mom there.
Yes, she always encouraged us to do better and to be better than her. And sometimes it would hurt my feelings because I thought she was putting her own self down. There are a lot of women who are single moms, single dads out there.
Yes.
And you do the best that you can with what you have, with the information that you have at the time. She did all that she could for us. And when she said do better, she was already good. So even without a college degree, that's not the make or break of a person. So I can tell you the life experience that I have has drawn me or drew me to the work of Adult Protective Services and Child Protective Services. I did not have the white picket fence with the two dogs, that standard family, that everyone would think, oh, that's, the right setup for great children to come from. But I do know that that passion and that compassion for those types of situations has made me look at all of what the elder and disabled population, as well as the vulnerable children, are dealing with in a different light. We all have to play our part in solving these issues. Accountability, iron sharpens iron. We know that we cannot rid all ills in this society, but we all can work towards perfection.
Yes.
And each of us have our own personal life experiences that we should not hide, but bring to bear when we're helping in the community, and also inspire us to maybe the calling on our life that we have not heard or endeavored to seek. So
when we come back, we'll talk more to Bridgette Smith-Lawson.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
When it comes to protecting yourself and your partners, all the information out there can be overwhelming. Visit our website. We are a free and confidential service striving to help you stay informed and stay notified. We are committed to a healthy Houston.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. Drive the new 2020 Cadillac XT4, only $399 a month, or the new 2020 XT5, only $429 a month, both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase the XT4 or XT5 and enjoy 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
Our story begins more than 60 years ago inside an abandoned chicken coop where our founder discovered a retired teacher living. No home, no health care. So she said no to this injustice and yes to transforming lives. It's this drive, this compassion that inspired AARP. Today we empower people to choose how they live as they age. We advocate for health and financial security. We strengthen communities everywhere. We are AARP, creating real possibilities.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. For a limited time, get $16,000 off all in-stock Cadillac 2019 XT5 crossovers and $19,000 off all in-stock 2019 CT6 sedans. Or experience the first ever 2020 Cadillac XT6 Premium Luxury Collection, only $519 with $1 down for 39 months lease. Or purchase and receive 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hi, we're back with on the Cam Hill Show with Bridgette Smith-Lawson. She's running for Fort Bend County Attorney. Hey, Bridgette, how you doing? We were just talking about your family, your grandmother and your mom. Just the information is great. Yeah, it is. It is. What would you say more to if people?
My story is get there, and I want to make sure that everyone knows that this road has not been easy for me in terms of having to work my way from poverty against every social barrier that said that I should not even went to college, let alone law school. But again. Through. I tell folk I know how to work a Dairy Queen drive-through and write an immigration brief that changes national immigration policy, but that's just something that's just that hard work. I tell anybody who's listening, if you have a goal in your mind or something that you want to achieve, don't let anyone stop you. You go and you work hard to achieve it no matter what.
I love that. Also, let's talk to people that may have been, and you've talked a little bit to the moms about public service, but let's talk to the whole family about running at an office or running for office in public service and how it affects the family and what you have seen along your way. What would you give the advice to give to them?
I would say, again, this is This is a joint effort of everyone on your team. So everyone has to be dancing to the same beat
Yes,
because it demands your time, it demands your resources, it demands everything from you, even physically having to be out up early in the morning. I know for me, having to go to work, there are times where I would walk in late from different community engagements or community meetings and have to get up at make sure that my daughter was at volleyball practice or whatever practice, 6:30 in the morning. It is a work of the whole team. Of
yes,
course, my husband cooking dinner, going to the grocery store, picking up the girls, and managing different aspects. But anyone who wants to run, just know that it's an effort of the whole family. It's a collaboration. It is making sure that everyone around you is working towards that goal and support you. Even my neighbors will cook dinner for me and bring over because they'll bring over food, and so I can just put it in the freezer and just have my daughters to pop it out. Um, there's just so many things and so many elements that
yes.
to be managed, including your spouse wanting to help and you just making sure everyone's on the same page and working towards the same goal, and that there's a complete wraparound of you moving forward in your candidacy because you're going to need it.
Absolutely. I love that fact that you said that. As you look along the way and as you're going along the path of running, and this is a runoff, we want to tell people again about the early voting and the time. And I want you to reiterate and talk to people about what does early voting mean versus voting on that day?
Well, early voting means that you can get in line and cast your ballot before the crowds. And in light of COVID-19, it is best for you to exercise your opportunity to vote during early voting so that you will more than likely not be in the long line or be in a crowded situation.
Right.
Um, Early voting begins this Monday, June 29th through Friday, July 10th. The election day is Tuesday, July the 14th. I would tell anyone, come early, exercise your social distancing, bring your mask, bring your gloves, and your
Right.
hand sanitizer. We hope to be able to have setups and stations out there to meet the needs of the constituents while they're voting by providing masks and gloves and sanitizer and whatnot. But to do that in mass is something that's still yet to be coordinated. But
Yes.
it's better for you to come prepared and to vote early so that you won't have to worry about the 6 foot of distance between you and
Right.
the next voter. Exercise that right to vote, definitely. Don't skip that because our ancestors fought for that. But do it in the early voting period as much as you can so that you can properly socially distance and reduce the exposure to COVID-19.
That's great. We want to also tell people early voting, you can vote anywhere in that county at that time. And we
Yes.
again want them prepared for safety, as you were speaking of.
Yes, definitely. Um, the the COVID-19 has pushed back the runoff date already. We were supposed to already had our runoffs in May, and that was pushed back by executive order of the governor. But here we are on the eve of early voting. It's not going to be pushed back at this point. So we just have to make sure that all of our voters know we want you to come out and vote again, but we want you to be safe and we want you to vote in a safe manner. So please check with your, check everything before you go in terms of making sure you have your mask, your gloves, and all of that, all of those elements to protect from contact with and exposure to other people so that you can vote and then return home and reduce the likelihood of spread of the COVID-19.
That's great. I want you to talk to each one of our viewers and tell them why vote for you.
Vote for Bridgette because Bridgette has been a public servant working for you for many years, when there were no lights, no cameras, no anything like that, and you all didn't know who I was getting up early, going to court across this whole Southeast Texas on behalf of Texans, whether it was Adult Protective Services or Child Protective Services, or just making sure that I did my part to do what all that I could as a public servant. Vote for Bridgette, because when she says that she has real experience, she has real experience that could be verified, that she knows several practice areas, whether it's criminal law, family law, personal injury, bankruptcy, Chapter 7, 11, 13, probate matters. I've been a tax court ad litem, immigration, also the government code and government law. That's something that's necessary for the job. I am an advocate and also a strong litigator. I want you to know real experience is real experience when I say that. And then proven leadership ability. I have the years of managing Division of Regulatory and Litigation attorneys. And although all of this is maybe something that you've heard before, I know in my heart that I'm equipped and ready to lead that office and to make sure that it serves our communities in a positive manner. I've seen firsthand for several years what it looks like when government doesn't do all that it can or the best that it can, even despite the efforts of many I know who try to do the best that we can locally. I do know that everything in government is not perfect, and it never will be perfect because it's made up of imperfect people. But I can promise you this, I will work my best and the hardest I can to make sure that the county attorney's office serves the community, serves the Fort Bend County governmental officials and governmental agencies, and that it does its best to not harm the community. Vote for Bridgette, because when I say that I am here to serve, I do mean it. Vote for Bridgette because one thing's for certain, we have to have people in office who are not there just for title, who know what to do, who will submit themselves humbly to you, and I am that person. So if I had to say that in my last words to the voting constituency, I would tell them that. I do know that I have gotten a lot of endorsements, but more importantly, I want the endorsements of the voters. Last time, I think it was 45.17% of the votes. I needed 50% plus one. My third opponent, Mr. David Hunter, is supporting me in my runoff. And I do want the voters to know that I plan to work my hardest to get that 50% plus one. And I hope that you trust me to give me your vote so that I can do the job and face the Republican nominee in November. And I do know that my skill set and my experience and my background is one that is a formidable opponent for the Republican opponent in November. And I want to be able to serve our community. So I'm the best choice for our community. And that's my opinion. I know that I have an opponent who will maybe say otherwise, but that is my position. That is what I want the voters to know at this point.
That's great. Also, Bridgette, let's remind people very exclusive, a little bit, just about where you came from, how you started, just a little bit. And what I mean, coming from Thurgood Marshall, you was summa cum laude?
Yeah.
And we
No,
want
I was cum laude.
we want to let you're smart.
Yeah. So I went to Ball High School. Shout
Yes.
out to Ball High, Allison Torres. I finished in '95. Went to U of H main
Yes.
campus for. I literally took my last class for U of H undergrad. It was a Friday in August, and I went to orientation for law school that Monday.
Yes.
I graduated the class in from Thurgood Marshall School of Law. Passed
Yes.
the bar the first. I am licensed in federal court, and I'm also licensed to practice in the immigration courts, which is
Yes.
called the Executive Office of Immigration Review. And so, of course, I've had a private practice. I've done mass tort pharmaceutical litigation for some of the biggest firms in town, including O'Quinn, Lamanick, and Purtle, when Mr. O'Quinn was alive. Everything from from diet drugs to
Right.
selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRIs, which is pretty much Seroquel, those types of drugs. And I've done hundreds of depositions I count how many hearings and trials and whatnot that I've been through over the years. I've been
Yes.
licensed for 17 years, and I've practiced nonstop since that time, with the exception of 2 9-week periods when I was out on maternity leave. So I've been working hard as a lawyer. I enjoy being a lawyer, and it's been a great experience. So. At this point in my career, like as you all know, running for office, I'm looking for a change in terms of the direction of the client group that I have. And again, just wanting to make sure that I use my legal expertise to serve our community better and in a more concentrated form, because I have been responsible for several counties for several years, including Fort Bend. And this will allow me an opportunity to narrow my scope and my practice to one county, which is the county where I live with my family, and that's Fort Bend.
Wow, that sounds great, lady. We did a little bit of last words, but let's just compound it right now. You're looking at the viewer, you're talking to them now, they're getting ready to go vote. Talk to them.
Yes.
And tell them.
Again, I ask humbly for your vote. I ask for you to look at my background, my experience, and to cast your vote for someone who is equipped and ready to lead and serve the county in its entirety, who has the experience, who's been working for you as a public servant for years, who is capable, equipped, and also, more importantly, able to meet and match the Republican nominee, because we want to make sure that we understand that the primary is just part of the process. We have to win the seat in November, and I know that my background and experience is, again, formidable against the Republican opponent. Real experience, dedication to public service, and proven leadership ability has been my slogan since I announced back in last May. I don't plan to change it, because I know that is the recipe to make this a successful candidacy in terms of presenting myself, because that is the truth, but also it's the success that I hope that the county attorney's office would offer our community. As the main goals in our office as the county attorney, we would be providing the constituency real experience. We will be dedicated to them as a public servant, and we will provide proven leadership in our legal expertise to our county governmental agencies that we support. So more importantly, vote no matter what, because that's your right. We must exercise our right to vote, whether you vote for me or not. Please go out and vote. But I kindly and humbly ask for your votes. Bridgette Smith-Lawson for Fort Bend County Attorney.
That's great. How do people get in touch with you and your campaign team?
Sure. My website is votebridgettesmithlawson.com. My email is votebridgettesmithlawson@gmail.com, and my phone number 832-278-2112. I do want to thank everyone who's already voted for me. I want to thank all of the organizations that have endorsed me already. I truly appreciate every vote, every prayer. My donors who gave me $5 and my donors who gave me $500. I thank every last one of them for everything that they've done. So I don't want to leave this interview without expressing gratitude, because truly this is not a journey that you make alone. So I thank everyone who has prayed for me and supported me all along this way. And I'm going to just trust God for whatever outcome that He allows, and just going to be grateful for the experience. This has been wonderful. Thank you, Cam.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Bridgette. This has been excellent. Thank you to Bridgette Smith-Lawson. She's running for Fort Bend County Attorney. June 29th through July the 10th is early voting. July the 14th, that Tuesday, is Election Day. On tomorrow, I am so excited. We will have the legendary Rue Davis and James Robinson. They will be here. Thank you for tuning in to the Cam Hill Show on A-Star TV. Bye.